We are rolling. Rolly.
Isn't that the tongue twister? Round the ragged rock, the ragged rascal ran. Round the ragged rock, the ragged rascal ran.
It's easy to say "I" like that.
No, it's easy to say normally, but trying to roll it is
around the ragged rock.
The ragged rascal ran.
The ragged rascal ran.
Well, you're Welsh, and there's a lot of rolled R's in Welsh, right? So that probably gives you the
really
edge.
is.
I don't have such a talented tongue.
And on that note, hello and welcome to the PGG podcast, Rhif 23.
Exactly. That's my point.
There we go. Today, my name is Gareth Evans. I'm joined by Henry, the Thirsty Cooper. You took a drink right on cue. How could I not call you Henry, the Thirsty Cooper?
Thirsty ho.
Thirst quencher.
Thought.
Thirsty Thought Cooper.
Who can't roll R's?
Yeah. And today we are going to be talking about some gaming stuff. We're going to talk about GoG 2.0. I've been lucky enough to get into the early access beta on that. We're also going to be talking about the extended Jedi Fallen Order gameplay trailer, which changes our impressions of the game. Not too much on that right now. That's just a little teaser in there. Yep. We've got news about They Are Billions. I've been playing They Are Billions, the main campaign, which released recently. I'll be talking to you about that, as well as, God, we're jam-packed today. We're going to be touching on The Sinking City, which Henry reviewed for us this week.
Indeed.
Talking a bit more about that. Also, we're taking the questions from the Discord, as well as taking YouTube comments. And we have our second ever, I remember it this week, second ever Triggered Fanboy Comment of the Week. Yes, you're all waiting for it. Yeah, you're gonna need a jingle for that. They've been commented. You need a jingle. I think it was Cloney that said you need a jingle, or someone did. Anyway, let's talk about GoG 2.0. GoG is the PC gaming store front, which is rolling out its 2.0 update. And for those of you who don't know, GoG is owned by CD Projekt, parent company of CD Projekt Red. So they're the same company, same family, same people, same building, in fact. And it boasts a DRM-free store. So that's the main selling point of GoG, pro-consumer company as we know them to be. CD Projekt, DRM-free games, and that's their unique selling point. So what this GoG is now, 2.0, they're promising to consolidate games libraries from all your stores. So whether you've got games on Uplay, Steam, Origin, Epic Games Store, Battle.net, PSN and Xbox Live, even though you can't launch games from those consoles, those ones are supported now. So basically all your games in one place, as well as achievements and hours played on most of those two. I'll go through which one specifically in just a sec.
It's basically what everyone's been clamoring for. All the problems with the Epic Store and the Epic Store fighting the Steam Store, and it's not good for everyone. GoG come along and be like, yeah, we'll sort that. We've got everything.
Such a clever strategy. Yeah. It's like they're listening. It's like they're listening to consumers, right? Because everyone on the back of the Epic Games Store. Some of the Epic Games Store backlash was, I want my games in one place. I don't want to go to Uplay, and this Epic Games Store backlash thing kind of consolidated that for some people. Just want, I like the convenience of having one place, Steam, all my games are there. But that's ended now, whether you like it or not. You've got Uplay, Battle.net, you've got Origin, Epic Store, you've got all these different places, and this game's all over the place. Now, what GoG has done is recognise that there's a gap in the market for something like that, and they've stepped right in there, and this is what they're delivering here.
They've kind of won the game they weren't even really playing, because they were kind of doing their own thing with the DRM thing. That they that limits a lot of what games can go on there, but that's their, as you said, their unique selling point. So they've come in and just been like, right, well, we'll solve the problem you've created, and we'll be the heroes and do it better than everyone, which is awesome.
I like that. I like that this is a strategy based on listening to consumers. Imagine that. Imagine actually listening to the consumers.
Complaints about other people's
and then fixing people's problems. Yeah.
It's like, it's not a problem with our service, it's a problem with someone else's service, but if we can use our service to solve that problem, it's a win-win.
Yeah, so it is only limited entry right now, so it's like a first come, first served basis. I literally signed up the second they announced it. I was like, oh shit, I gotta get on this, so I signed up, and so that's why I was one of the first ones in. You can still sign up for it now. You'll still get it rolled out to you eventually. You don't know when. A couple of things to note is that I have listed those stores that are supported right now. PSN, so it's just your achievements on the PlayStation Network. Actually, I'll go through that in a sec. But you can't launch games, is what I'm trying to say, from the PSN Network or Xbox Live, and you can't launch games from your Windows Store purchases or your PC Game Pass games or whatever the Xbox thing is on PC now, or wherever you store your games, which is a bit of a weird one. Again, it's early access, it's still in beta, they're still ramping up the features, so I definitely expect that to be a feature in future, because the Xbox games on PC is a thing that's gaining popularity now. Can certainly see them having to support that in future. One thing to take note of is you can launch games from any platform. So the layout is really good. You can see all your games there. You can see how much time you've played, if the stores support it. So you can launch any game from the GOG app, but it does redirect it through the other store when it launches it. Obviously, because DRM is attached to those games on the other stores. Steam, for example, if you launch a Steam game, Steam will launch in the background and the game will play. It doesn't go without Steam. It has to launch the store that it's connected to. That's the only caveat, right? And some people might raise exceptions to that. But when there's DRM attached, say if it was GOG, for example, you wouldn't need to launch GOG. If it was another store launching a GOG game, you wouldn't need to launch GOG because they're DRM free, and that's the whole point of it. Like,
it's almost like this is a launcher. Yeah, brings all your launchers into one place. Then you launch Steam, which then launches whatever game you're trying to play.
Which which raises the first question mark, which is having multiple launchers running at the same time. I mean, some people do it anyway, but it might affect performance on your game. That's something to consider. I'm not saying that it does or it doesn't. I'm saying that, if this is an issue for you, you might want to consider that. So another feature of this is the integrated friends feature. So it allows you to chat with people from all the other platforms in one place. So if you've got mates like on Uplay, and I don't know if Uplay's got a chat, I'm sure it has, but Origin definitely has, and then you've got Steam. But this is not supported right now. So a lot of the friends feature capability is all scaled back right now. So the first thing that you'll do when you install it is that you link all your accounts. And you've got obviously got to give those permissions to GOG to get access to your other stores. So you've got to log in using your username and login for all the different accounts. Once you've done it once, that's it. So it's something. It's like a Facebook permission thing. Like it's like whenever you launch an app or something, do you give Facebook asks you, do you give this app permission to do this? It's the same kind of thing. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
So I have no idea what my actual Spotify account password is. I just route it through Facebook and it just does it for you.
Yeah, same kind of thing. So like I mentioned, some of the features aren't fully fleshed out. Some of the stores currently don't allow achievement and game time tracking. Okay, right now. So right now, Battle.net, Epic, PSN, Battlestar and Epic. Sorry, Battle.net and Epic don't track game achievement and game time. So they'll just that field will just be blank next to those games in your library. PSN tracks achievements only, no game time, and Uplay tracks game time only, no achievements. It's slightly weird.
Yeah, but I guess they'll get there eventually. But it'll kind of comes down to whether the platform itself offers those things, because GOG can't just add achievements for Epic if they don't do them.
Yeah, right. Exactly. They're doing the best they can right now, I'm guessing. So along with friends list and chat, Battle.net, Xbox Live, Epic, Origin, PSN, Steam, Uplay, basically all of them, like I said, don't support the friends list and chat right now, but that is coming soon. So impressions of it, I think it's great. Whenever I boot up my PC now, instead of going to Steam,
Yeah.
and thinking, oh, this is half of my games. I go to GOG and say, well, this is all of my games. It's really good.
Yeah.
I'm really it's the first place I go to now when I turn my PC on, which I haven't felt like that in ages, since early days when Steam had all the games, and I don't have to think about what games have I got on you play now. I haven't played that game for what games have I got on, because if they're not there you forget about them, but on GOG they're all right there in front of you, and it's a really great layout. Like, you can just click the store on the left and it shows you what games from each store. It's like a quick filter button tab basically, or you can filter manually in terms of it's very customizable in terms of the layout, in terms of what games you can filter, what information's presented to you, and the layout itself and the UI is really intuitive. I really like it, because sometimes you could have a store with all these things. You can imagine how messy it could be with all this information, and they've done a great job. I've got to hand it to them.
It does seem awesome. Like, as everyone probably knows, I'm not like a PC player, but this to me seems like the ultimate way to bring together everyone in the PC community who right now seem to be at each other's throats all the time over Epic Store stuff or Steam stuff. Epic stealing your data, and Steam aren't doing anything about it. They're both being rubbish. Yeah. And then this is coming along and just being the best of both.
There are some people who will have their favourite platform and will only ever buy on Steam because that's just the way they are. There are other people who like Steam but hate Epic because they're not sure about security in that. And they've got this other option now, GOG. They've always had this other option, but GOG is a place that adds additional features to Steam, even because Epic Game Stores have been criticised for not having enough features. GOG is more features than Steam. I don't think Steam will ever implement this type of feature because it's just the way they are, right?
They just don't do anything.
Yeah. They've got a huge feature set. They don't have this multi-platform thing. Yes, you can add a game to your Steam library and launch it from Steam. Add a game. You can't add full stores to your Steam marketplace. So it's great. So the GOG is the DRM. It's not only has it got these extra features and it's giving you something that other platforms aren't. You also know that deep down they are a consumer-friendly company, and they're DRM-free. That's the whole thing. That's their whole thing, is that they're consumer-friendly. So you can kind of trust them, I guess. I mean, I'm not telling you who to trust, but I trust these guys, and I trust GOG. I've been to their offices. I've spoken to many of the employees, and it's one of the companies that I really always promote because I really believe in what they're doing. So obviously I'm biased because of that, but make your own mind.
Shill. I reckon some people will still have a problem with this because they really don't like one particular launcher, be it Epic, because that's the obvious one, because it will still have to root through that. But this makes it so much more convenient. That's the biggest thing, is convenience, because it consolidates it, brings everything into one place, but you are still indirectly using that platform, which I think some people will still need to come to terms with before they jump on this. Yeah,
there was one comment on Twitter I've picked out here. Assassin's dude says the other launchers will still have to be opened and run in the background, though. Like that was a deal breaker for him. But I think it's just because of the DRM, right? GOG don't control that. It's out GOG's control. You can't launch a Steam game without launching Steam. So why would GOG be able to do that? It's
it doesn't make sense.
It's not doable because of the DRM. GOG are a company who are anti-DRM, so it's not like it's not a bad point for them, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. The other comment is, how does buying side work out? Will you still have to buy it from Steam, or can you just use GOG? Another good question, right? This was from Dragonfly Jr. over on Twitter when I tweeted about it. And if you've games you've already bought are already on them stores, in future just buy from GOG. I mean, that's probably what you're going to be doing. GOG is highly curated though, so it doesn't have the broad range of games that Steam does. It doesn't have all the shitty asset flips and all those types of cheap knockoff games that Steam tends to have. Because every game that goes on the GOG store is curated, is looked at by the team, is put there for because of its ensured its quality before they put it, but before they allow you, to buy it from them. But you can still use any store you can still buy from GOG. It works out well, but the amount of games on GOG is going to be not as wide. It's not as big a variety as there is on Steam store. So that is, it's just my feeling is they're trying to get this GOG onto people's systems so that people can familiar with the GOG brand and get used to using it, so that they end up increasing their sales from their store as a result, because more people are using their platform just as a convenience thing, and they end up seeing the sales go through increase because of it. And that's what I'm expecting to happen. There's a lot of buzz around this GoG 2.0 thing now, and I think from what I've seen so far, it's rightfully deserved, with the caveat being that I'm a big shill for this company because I love them. I love what they do. I love what they stand for. I'm a principled man, god damn it. And without principles, what even are you? Right?
I am being signed out of my computer right now. That's great news. Thank you.
What even are you? I
am being signed out. Just
I
thought I'd share that because that was rather perfect timing.
There you go. That's my impressions of GoG 2.0. I'm going to continue to play it. It is functional. It is useful. I've already seen the benefits from it. I think it's a great bit of software right now, and it's still in beta. Obviously, there are some things that don't work. For instance, for some reason, my games are duplicated on the Uplay store. I think they show up twice. That needs a bug that needs fixing. Obviously, they need to support the other stores, like the Windows Store, whatever games you've got on there, or the Xbox Game Pass, or whatever it is, as well as they need to flesh out the chat features and stuff like that. It's still very, it's still a work in progress, but I do think that they're going to make a difference for a lot of people. Anyway,
awesome.
My thoughts on GOG. What do you have next for us, Henry? Now you're signed back in.
Yeah, now my computer's cooperating. So there was a little extra extended cut trailer thing for Jedi Fallen Order, and there's a little bit of extra stuff at the beginning. Like half of it is new stuff, and then it's basically the same trailer as the E3 one, but it's a different playthrough. They do slightly different things, and the actions are slightly different. And it doesn't show loads of new stuff, but it just looks like an actual game now, essentially. So at E3 with Microsoft, they showed the tiny little 2-minute thing of the climbing up the AT-AT and a bit of driving it. It's part of that section. It's all part of the same level as the one in the E3 demo when you're rescuing Wookiees and stuff. But it actually looks like a person playing it, not just a rehearsed sequence. Yeah. Like he's making a few mistakes, and there's a little bit of jank to it. Yeah. Like you said about like draw distance or something was a bit off. But I like seeing that. We were saying how it's so much more transparent and they're not trying to lie to anyone.
Yeah, I think this is one of the things that I think devs don't understand, is that we as gamers know that if you show us early footage of a game, that this isn't representative of the final game, and this is just the state that the game is in now. And I know there's fears around people just panning it because it looks shit. So that's maybe why they don't do it so much. Yeah. But showing off a game in its current state, like they have done there in this extended trailer, gives us a lot more faith in the developer that they're not pulling the wool over our eyes and trying to show us a game that doesn't really exist, like Anthem did, for example. They're showing us the game warts and all, even if the characters are a bit janky when they're talking to you as you're milling around. And maybe if the draw distance is a little bit off, or other things just aren't quite right. Some of the environments aren't fully fleshed out. I mean, it looks like it's in development, and that's how it should look at this stage.
Exactly.
It's authentic, right?
Yeah,
they're not deceiving us.
Yeah, it's so much more honest, and I think this trailer actually shows off more of what the game as a whole is like, because there was a bunch of stuff that came out from people who saw like behind closed doors demos of the game at E3, and they were like, well, it's got a bunch of Metroidvania type elements, and it isn't just the Dark Souls kind of deliberate slow combat and precision and stuff. There's Metroidvania elements where like you go to an area, you can't open the door, you need a certain ability or a certain item. They show off a bit of that, because there's one point where you you wall run onto the thing, get to a door, and he's like, I can't open that. If only I had this special ability. Yeah. And then he buggers off, goes to like a workbench, sticks a little gizmo on top of your droid, BD1, who's, you know, he's your toolbox. He does everything, you know. We've all seen Star Wars. And then he goes back and he like hacks the door and can open it.
Yeah.
And I really like that style of game development, and calling it Metroidvania is kind of almost too specific, because pretty much every action open world game does it now.
Yeah.
Because like, we're going to lock off this area and force you to come back later when you've got new stuff, because it draws out your playtime and it's like a natural progression without feeling like backtracking.
It's just a bit of a puzzle as well, or some sort of, you know, barrier that you've got to overcome. You feel when you finally open that door, some sort of achievement. Yeah,
it's like what's on the other side.
Prize and achievement,
Pride
right?
And achievement.
EA?
It's a surprise mechanic. Well, there's a bit where in the original E3 trailer, he like swings in on a vine, drops in, kills stormtroopers. They're all dead. Happy days. Goes off up the side, round through a cave, and then ends up in the next room. In this one, because he's got that ability, he just sends the BD1 to hack the door, and it opens. And he just walks through and does the same thing. So that's only a tiny thing, but I like it. It means you've got alternate routes, and in other places, I imagine that's going to open up entire new areas that you couldn't access when you went there first, because you need a certain ability.
So you're a lot more positive on this demo, having seen it was a 26 minutes or whatever
something like
versus the 14, 15 from E3 minutes. You had your reservations about the combat in the original demo. Are they allayed now?
I think so, because in the original one, it was very like rehearsed, but super like stilted. It was like whoever was playing it was trying to make sure they got every move exactly the way they were told to do it, and didn't look like it was fluid or organic. It was like, right, well, I'm going to wait for the AI to step forward and I'm going to do this specific move. This one is way more creative, and he's using different things, and it just looked more like a real game.
Less of a presentation, more of just a dude playing the game in its current state.
And one thing that is kind of a nitpick, but it did bother me in the E3 trailer, is when you meet up with the rebels and what's his name? Forrest Whitaker's character. Saw Gerrera, who's a big extended universe character. You meet up with him and he's like, right, we're going to go do this. You take your lightsaber and go do that. And I thought, that's kind of a weird, overly like literal line. It's like, you've got a lightsaber, go kill things, hero. But with the context of having met him before in this new trailer, when you see him, he's like, oh, who are you? He's like, oh, I'm with blah blah. We've got Jedi business to solve. He's like, Jedi? There's no Jedi left. You take out the lightsaber. And he's like, oh, okay, maybe you mean business. So hearing that line now with that context, it's almost like, all right, prove yourself. Take your lightsaber and let's see what you can do.
Makes sense,
Such a nitpick, but I was like, okay, I feel better about it.
Yeah, it's almost like getting annoyed about something before you know the full context is kind of a waste of time, right?
This is why it's it's only a nitpick. So I'm like, I mean, it's either just bad writing or I'm missing something.
It's like all those journalists. I mean, it's a off topic now, but those journalists. There's a guy from Stranger Things, one of the young dudes in Stranger Things, the one with missing the teeth, right? And he did this show for MTV or something where he's taking the story was he was interviewing. It's like a prank show, right, where he's interviewing people for jobs, and then when they get the job, it's like, only joking, it's not really a job, and people are upset. All these people are looking for jobs. These people, you're preying on vulnerable people who are looking for jobs. That would be a great reason to criticize them if you didn't know the full context, which was these people were going into it knowing it was just a one-day job. It wasn't a full-time job, and that kind of destroys everybody's argument, then, isn't it? Because you've got the greater context. It's like, well, maybe we shouldn't have been so upset. Maybe all these journalists should have just like calmed down a little bit before they got upset about that.
It's not like homeless people on the dole, and this job will like make or break their entire life. Like,
they knew it was a one-day thing, a 5-hour day, and they were going to get paid for it, and they did get paid for it anyway. So they went in with the same expectations as if they would, otherwise. But there you go. Extra context always makes a difference.
Yes, it really
what were we
does.
Talking about? Fallen Order.
So another thing that we all kind of drew from that original trailer, but I thought even more, is that it looks so much like Uncharted in the way you explore the world, not just with the climbing and then the swinging and all that crap, but like there's a bit when he's inside the AT-AT, he like climbs up the side and then goes inside it and kind of scuttles through the like pipes and crap inside it. And I just feel that's so Uncharted. The way the camera's following you and swinging round, it's Uncharted. And every third-person action game does it now. Like God of War did it all the time.
Yeah.
With like long tracking camera shots.
It's great. And one thing to notice too is when he was talking with the characters just milling around outside of his spaceship after the battle, whatever, there was no cutscenes. It wasn't like zoom to face. It was you just standing there, and it was all kind of third person. So it's another good kind of, I don't know, it doesn't break your immersion if you it doesn't take, you can still move around while you're talking, and that keeps you in control the whole time. One thing for me was how overpowered was that AT-AT. And the other thing for me is like the gameplay looked great. This is just a reservation, right? It's like, what failure conditions are there? Like, how can you fail in the game? It looked pretty easy. You were in the AT-AT and you were like blowing things, and then you killed another AT-AT, and then there was like people shooting you. Like, we're having a great time blasting all these things, don't get me wrong, but there has to be some sort of failure tension there, right? It's like, oh, maybe you want, and if you do you go back 5 minutes? Do you go,
Yeah, and this
is it going to be too easy?
Yeah, and this seems kind of early on in the game to me. I mean, I don't really have any point of reference to justify that. I just feel like, well, he's just met Saw Gerrera. He's probably going to be an important character, so it feels like it's maybe near the beginning. So maybe that's why it's easy, but you're right. Yeah. It does seem like he wasn't really struggling much.
Yeah. Yeah, and the enemies, talked about it maybe being a Souls-type game, and we know they've got these shrines where you meditate at, and all the enemies get reset for whatever strange reason. How that fits in Star Wars universe, I will never know. That's another reservation for me.
Yeah, you briefly see him meditate in this new trailer, but it's literally he kneels down,
goes to another
screen, and then comes out.
But the other question for me is, it's not so much like a Souls game when the enemies need 10 or 15 attacks to, kill you, essentially, because some of the bad guys did land in this new trailer, and it doesn't take off much at all. Like 10 hits and you'd be dead. Never mind the 2 hits in Sekiro.
But I do like the new troops with the like electric staffs. I think they're called Purge troopers. They don't look really hard, but they look much harder than the regular guys, because you can just one swing, normal stormtroopers out. But there was a bit where he was doing really, in the new one, where he was doing really well against him, and then the trooper got off like a long combo on him and like smacked him to the floor, and as soon as he got up, he got him again. So it seems like you've actually got to pay attention to it, and it's still probably not going to be that hard, but if you just do the right things, you'll be fine.
A couple of things that stood out for me was like, I really love that force ability that makes them freeze and look like they're in like
low res
220p or whatever, 144p.
The buffering button.
So it looks like it might be a little bit overpowered, but I'm the hero. Let me do that.
I kill stuff.
Cool. Just freeze things, go up. The other thing is that little what's his name? BD1. He looks so awesome, and we talked about it in the office earlier about how they use this BD1 character to mask some of the gamey side of it, right?
Because like when you open your map, it's not like you click a button and it's a big menu screen. He hops off your shoulder and like projects it like a hologram into the world, and the world doesn't stop. The world's still, things are moving. You could probably get killed if you try to use it in combat. But that means that the map is actually like represented in gameplay and in lore, I guess, is kind of
inside the game you play. It doesn't take you out of the game. It's still immersive, right? Because it's the robot that's projecting the map. Yeah. You're not pressing the map button and then just like going to a different screen. It's like it's part of the game. Another example of that was everything that you can learn about. You can send the robot up to scan it, and that's when you get the information about stuff. Again, it's like delivering this information, but using the robot as like, the gamey side of things that usually immersion break you. Like, for example, what was the game recently where every 2 seconds it just freezed and give you like a tutorial tip?
Oh, in Rage.
Yeah, in Rage. Oh God, I was enraged by it. It's like it's so distracting. But when you can do it so smoothly like this and use something in the game to present all these gamey things to you, I think this BD1 character might be already one of my favorite companions, and in any game that I've probably I haven't even played him yet. So.
My last thing I want to mention, and it's only very brief, is you get to get a very short look inside the ship, and you go to what I imagine is like a galaxy map. And there's a bunch of planets on it, and that, like, you didn't really see him use it or go anywhere. But based on what they've said, where like you can go to any planet at any time, but you just won't be able to do stuff in them because you don't have the right abilities, so you'll have to come back. Just seeing that and seeing a bunch of planets, I'm like, oh, okay. I want to go explore. It made me want to explore despite not actually seeing anything.
Yeah, and that was... It was one of the criticisms of the demo that they showed at E3 is that they didn't show off this side of the game. People thought it was just like an Uncharted type of game, but the information that's come out afterwards was like, yeah, you can go to all these planets at will, pretty much.
Yeah, and do what Star Wars does best, which is flying around in space, going to new crazy places, and they've said there's going to be a bunch of familiar ones and a bunch of brand new ones, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah. It does look good. I mean, the more I haven't seen that. I mean, I was on board anyway because I like a single player game with no bullshit, and that's what this is. And having seen that extended gameplay, it's just whetting my appetite that a little bit more.
Yeah, I was pretty convinced, but had more reservations. Some of these reservations have been lifted, and I'm more convinced.
Awesome. So there we have it. Jedi Fallen Order extended footage trailer. Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Let us know down below. Next up, we're going to talk about They Are Billions. Now, we've talked about this game in the past on the channel. I'll just read a brief synopsis of what it is, and I'll go into the rest of it. They Are Billions is a steampunk strategy game set on a post-apocalyptic planet. Build and defend colonies to survive against the billions of the infected that seek to annihilate the few remaining living humans. Yeah, it's a zombie game. It's a zombie strategy game. God, I'm tired of zombies in my games, man. Zombies are so boring. This game is by Numantian Games. I believe this is one of their biggest game to date. I don't know if they've done any before. If they had, they were very, very... insignificant in comparison. It was released in early access in December 2017, which is when we covered it on the channel. I played it in the past. I've played hours and hours of this game. So it's a real-time strategy game where you build a colony against hordes of infected zombies that come at you at certain intervals, and you defend against them. If one of them gets in your base, it could be over. It could be over for you within like 30-60 seconds. It infects one building, and then zombies just spawn from that building, infects another building. It's like a plague. It's like a fire that spreads really quickly. So you've got to pay particular attention to the way that they build in your base. It's a very defense-minded strategy. It's got pause in it, so if you're real-time strategy player, if you think this is going to be too much for you, you can pause the game and just think about it for a few seconds. Single player only, great, tick that box. And yeah, there's a lot of tension involved with making sure that not one zombie slips by, because it could be over for you. There's no saves. You can't go back and reload an early point in the game. You've got to start from the start. Now, this early access version was very, very popular. It peaked at 22,000 concurrent players in January 2018, and that was just when it had the sandbox mode. Now, it was... I mean, I'd written it off myself because I played it like 50 odd hours back in January, February last year, and I loved it. Right, just loved playing through the game. The gameplay was awesome. But I wrote it off because the progress was slow. They promised a campaign for it, a single player narrative campaign, and I thought it was never going to come. I thought it was another one of those early access titles that take your money and just never deliver. They move on to another project and doesn't get finished. But lo and behold, June the 18th, which was just over a week ago now, the campaign mode finally launched, and I've been all over it. So the players, it was still quite popular. It was peaking at around 3,500 players on Steam before the update. Now it's back up to 18,000 players as of last weekend was the peak. So a lot of people are playing this game. If it's not on your radar, if you've not seen or heard of it, loads of people are playing it. Very few reviews out there. I've seen one person review it since it launched in its campaign. So what does the campaign introduce for those of you who've played it in the past or interested in what the campaign brings? So you've got a new story, which is, to be honest with you, pretty mundane. So the setup is you live in a crater and you're tasked with re-inhabiting the planet or die trying, essentially. You're on the alien planet, obviously, because you're zombies and it makes sense somehow. So you set out to establish colonies beyond the security of your home. And that's it. That's the setup. And you go out, you do missions, and you save the human race. Yay! So I'm 10 to 15, don't know where I got 17 from. 10 to 15 hours into the main campaign so far. So I've still got lots to do. These are obviously early impressions of the game, plus the information around the rest of it. I've got a total of 77 hours in the game. So I've played the sandbox mode for over 50 hours. I'm probably going to knuckle through and do the rest because it's pretty hard, pretty gritty game. I'm going to knuckle through and finish it. So these are my early impressions. So it introduces also a game campaign map, which opens up in like different forks, basically. So you do one mission and you get like a fork of 3 different directions you can go, and you decide which mission that you want to play next. It's just you don't actually go down. It's not. You can't pursue that one direction indefinitely. You get to a point where you get stuck and you need to unlock more before you go forward. So it's just like basically choosing which mission you do next, essentially. There might be 6 different missions available to you at one point, but eventually you're going to have to do them all before going into the harder missions, that kind of type of thing. Introduces a tech tree, which is new to the game. Now, this is a huge tech tree. And what it basically does is it strips back all the tech that you're used to in the sandbox mode and drip feeds you it in the campaign using upgrades and stuff that you unlock along the way. Chime in with any questions, by the way.
I'm just letting you roll on.
I am aware that I'm talking over for a long period here, but if you've got any questions, feel free to jump in. So it is a fresh challenge for veterans of the game. If you're used to all the tech and everything available to you every game that you play, you don't have access to any of that at the very beginning. So having to make do with like the smaller units and the limit, the buildings that aren't upgraded or whatever, that can be a bit of a challenge to begin with. So the tech tree, you can unlock different building types, upgrades to buildings, as well as upgrades to the durability of your buildings. So you can get like one upgrade might be 20% more durability to your walls or something like that. And also efficiency of buildings. So your hunters, things that collect food for you, like the fishermen's or your quarries or whatever, that you can increase their effectiveness by like 20% by using an upgrade. So there's so many different ways to upgrade. It's a huge tech tree, as well as your unit types to unlock, as well as improved stats which you can unlock as well. Right, that's the tech tree. I've got only a bit more to go. The next is the 2 additional game types. So for those of you who are used to it, it's just a sandbox mode. You build a base. You've got hordes of zombies coming at intervals. You've just got to try and defend against them, as well as gradually making your base bigger and growing to a point where you can defend the biggest wave right at the very end. You've got enough resources to defend against the zombies then. That's the original game type. In this, you've got a hero mission, which is again isometric view, but you've got to fight your way through a zombie populated facility with your general. So in the campaign introduces a general which you play as. So you're one dude going through this facility, shooting the zombies and collecting loot, basically, so you can spend that loot and the skill tree and unlock more stuff. So it's a kind of one-off kind of situation. You don't build anything in this mode. You just walk through and a bit like the Terminator, shooting all the zombies and stuff. But you can upgrade your hero's abilities in a separate skill tree. Upgrade his speed, his shooting power, his accuracy, as well as how fast he shoots, whatever. There's loads separate skill tree there as well, which is a nice touch. I wasn't really expecting that. However, these hero missions are pretty slow and quite boring sometimes, especially early on when your hero walks slow and he shoots slow and the zombies coming at you pretty slow. It takes a lot of time. I can imagine it gets easier and less laborious later on when you've unlocked a faster zombie, a faster hero. But the zombies are also going to get harder there too. So it's probably going to get more exciting later on in the campaign. Right now, early on, these hero missions aren't great, I'll be honest. And sometimes the loot is hard to spot because you've got a mouse over like the filing cabinets and drawers and boxes and stuff, and if your little tooltip, if your little arrow changes to a gear, it means there's loot in there and you can collect it. But you've literally got to scan the whole, all the insides of the buildings with your mouse in order to tell if there's anything lootable in there. That can be a bit of a time sink as well. So that's the hero missions. I'm not a great fan of that, but I get through them because I need to upgrade my tech tree, essentially. The infected swarm missions are a great addition. They're like a set piece swarm. So basically, you've got to withstand a huge swarm, but you've only got a certain number of points to spend on defenses and soldiers, depending. And the amount of defenses and soldiers you've got at your disposal depends on what you've unlocked in the skill tree already. So it's all linked. So you've got a huge one swarm coming at you. It might be 600 zombies coming at you. You've got a command center to defend. You've got to set up your defenses and then hit go and see what happens. Obviously, you can move your army around and stuff while it's playing out. But it's a nice little kind of bite-sized horde mode thing, which is it's a fun little mini battle type thing. I really like it. However, criticism of this is you might not be able to beat one of these hordes simply because you don't have enough tech unlocked. You don't have enough resources to allocate. You can go on these hero missions, get like an extra 200 points to spend on resources in one of these swarm modes. So it's a bit weird. I tried like maybe 10 times on one of the swarms. I was like, I can never do this. Like trying different setups, trying different defenses, positions and stuff like that. And I couldn't do it. And then I gained another 200 points to spend doing one of the other missions. I came back and I upgraded like wooden spikes in front of my walls, and that just made a difference. Like zombies walked into wooden spikes, they start getting damaged, and as you're shooting them, they die a lot quicker. So it's a little bit of a balancing thing there for me. Whereas you've got to be able to do it somehow. Yeah. Even maybe I'm just not a good enough player. Maybe I'm just shit. Get good. I tried 10 times to do this one swarm, and if I can't do it by then, I should have figured it out by then. Trial and error.
I'm missing something.
But anyway, it just comes down to having enough resources. It's a bit of a cheese, really, in my opinion. So the other regular game type, I am boring you now, but I'm almost finished. 2 things left. The regular game type is pretty much exactly the same as the sandbox modes, but the added addition of the train brings in your population. When you build up in tents or buildings or housing for your population, it doesn't automatically appear now. The train comes in every few minutes or so and delivers your population. It also tells you now when I don't know how long I've had this or whether it was an update, but it definitely wasn't in there when I played it in January last year. It tells you exactly when to expect the next horde, which takes away some of the tension. If you don't know when it's coming, then you always like panic. Oh shit! Is it going to be? Is it going to be? When's it going to be? Ready. And then there's a big, eventually a big announcement comes and it says zombies are approaching, and then you've got 8 hours to prepare, and then it's fucking shit or bust time. Yeah. But now you know exactly what hour they're going to be. Like maybe it's day 18 or something. So you've got time progresses in the game. You know at day 18 is when the horde's going to come. You can take your time. I think that's to the detriment of the gameplay, really. I think it takes away some of the anxiety, some of the stress, which is actually quite cool because for a survival game, that stress and anxiety is part of the fun, right? But there you go. So the other thing to note for those of you who have never played before is you can lose a lot of progress if you fail. You can be setting up a base for like an hour, and then one sneaky little zombie gets in and it's game over. Like I said, there's no saves, so you have to restart from the very start, and it's brutal, and that's part of the fun. That's part of the appeal to it, right? Yeah. This won't appeal to in summary, I'm enjoying it, but this will infuriate a lot of people because they don't like this type of gameplay, this type of setup. They want to be able to reload 5 minutes earlier and carry on, but that's the whole point of this, right? Yeah. That's what this game is. Anyone played Conan what's that Conan game that did the same? It basically ripped off this game recently. It didn't do it very well either. There was a Conan game, but like They Are Billions. I can't remember what it's called, but that released recently. Because how good this game was, it ripped it off essentially. All the mechanics in that Conan. What was it?
There was one Exiles. Is it Conan Exiles?
No.
I don't know. There's been quite
Conan
a few.
Unconquered is what it's called.
Ah.
Yeah. So.
It does look pretty cool because I really enjoy strategy games and RTSs and that, but I just never play them.
Yeah.
Because they're best on PC, and obviously I don't have a PC, but I really like them, and this does look cool. So I really like steampunk aesthetics and stuff. I think it's awesome.
But I think it is cool. It's quite quirky. There's a lot of different variations of units which are really weird but very satisfying sometimes too.
I really like the art style of it.
Yeah,
it's a very pretty looking thing.
It is good. I just love killing like hundreds and thousands. The way that they actually wrote the engine for this game, they made the engine themselves for this game because they needed so many moving pieces in the game at the start. So that you literally get thousands of these little zombies all individually like animated or whatever, just scuttling along, and that you can kill them. So it's great. And the reason I like it is because I like survival games. I really like survival games and strategy games, and it's like it's a nice unique mix. There's not many games that do this, and this does it pretty well. You take out the kind of dodgy hero missions and the kind of unbalanced swarm missions. The campaign is good. The main gameplay mechanics are really good and solid, and I would recommend it to anybody who finds that kind of appealing. But be warned, it will infuriate a lot of you, because if it doesn't appeal to you, it just won't appeal to you. It doesn't mean it's a bad game. It just means you don't find the appeal, right? You don't get what's good about the game. Anyway, this is my preaching over. There you have They Are Billions 1.0, which did launch, like I said, just over a week ago. Go and check it out if you're interested. And I'm done.
Ooh, that was a lot of talking.
That was a lot of talking. That's the most talking I've done all week. I'm just going to sit here and listen to you now.
Right. All right. It's my turn to talk. Okay. Well, if you haven't seen it, I put up a review this week. When did I do it? Today's Thursday. You're probably watching it on Friday or Sunday, and I put the review out on Wednesday. So there's a lot of days. At some point this week, there was a review
one of the days
for The Sinking City.
So pretty safe bet.
Yeah. So that's it. It's a game by a developer called Frogwares, and they're not a massive development studio at all, but they're a little bit bigger than indie. They're in that weird middle space, like single A, double A, that kind of ballpark.
Yeah.
And they're most well known for doing Sherlock Holmes detective thriller games, where you do Sherlock Holmes stories, you solve crimes, and you look dapper while doing it.
I've dabbled.
Yeah.
I've dabbled in those games.
So this one, The Sinking City, it's not a Sherlock Holmes one, but it, from what I can understand, so I've not played the Sherlock Holmes ones, but I've seen stuff of them. It borrows a lot from those, like in terms of its mechanics and the way it works and the way you uncover the mystery. So essentially, you are a private detective called Charles Reed, and as soon as I heard that it was called Reed, I kept thinking of Dr. Jonathan Reed from Vampire.
It's funny because it's the same kind of tier of game, isn't it? It's the same tier of game where it's not a huge budget, it's like a middle tier type of game.
Yeah, and they've both got kind of like a weird dark vibe. Yeah. Well, things
like a vampire.
It's sort of connected. There's a game called Call of Cthulhu, which is very similar to this, because it's like a Lovecraftian thing. And the bloke in that is voiced by the guy who does Jonathan Reed in Vampire.
Right.
And they look exactly the same as well. They're both,
it's a small world.
Beardy blokes. Anyway, Charles Reed, he's like an ex-naval officer, I think. He was a captain, presumably in the First World War. But
that's handy since the city's sinking, right?
I mean,
it's good to
knock
be good
about
with boats.
on a boat. His face is all scarred up, and he's definitely seen some bad shit, man, that's for sure. And it doesn't tell you it all straight away. And at the beginning, it feels a bit like you just dropped into this world. And it's a really weird world because it's Lovecraft. And Lovecraft is all cosmic horror, which is basically enormous monsters that all represent like existential crisis and madness and all weird shit that you can't comprehend. So it's like, let's put tentacles and gore on this horrible creature that you've got to deal with.
It was an interesting world, though, right?
Oh yeah, all Lovecraftian stuff is interesting. Like the most popular like mainstream Lovecraft thing in gaming is definitely Bloodborne, and that's not strictly Lovecraft, but it's Lovecraft inspired. Yeah. So the big monsters in that, which amygdalas that you can only see them if you're, I can't remember what they call it in the game, but it's like your madness. Because you can use, that's one of the currencies which you can use to buy upgrades, or you can save it, and then when it gets to a certain point, you perceive the world slightly differently. So that's a little bit like it, because there's these enormous creatures that are all crazy and insane, and it drives you mad. But the Sinking City is more traditional Lovecraft, and they call it the Cthulhu mythos, I think, which is kind of like a subgenre within the Lovecraft kind of idea, which is based on a bunch of other authors that all come together, and it's all around like New England, and it's all weird and wet and underwater and horrible. Mm-hmm. So if you couldn't gather, I really like the world and the design of it. Yeah. But when it comes to the actual gameplay, I'm a bit let down, unfortunately. And I mentioned this in my review. It's got shooting in it, but it's not a shooter first or even second. Mm-hmm. I'd say it's the detective adventure first, then a Lovecraft weird, horrible cosmic horror story, and then a shooter. Yeah. And the shooting is fine. Like, it'll get the job done, but it's not something you'll be like, oh, I really fancy, I'm going to go to this area to shoot things because the shooting is fun. You'll do it because you need to kill the thing that's in the way. The
combat in these, it's weird because when you got this tier of games where like AA, whatever you call it, like games like Hellblade, games like Vampire we've just mentioned, the combat is always a point of contention for a lot of people. Now, I enjoyed Vampire combat, and Hellblade combat was a bit repetitive, but again, it wasn't the main point of the game. There's a lot more to those games than the combat, and it feels like the same here.
Yeah, I think that's true, because I guess with these smaller budget things, they don't have the resources to punch into like coding and programming and all those complicated things, because you need loads of personnel to do the very difficult work. But they can get really good at the artistic side with really interesting visuals and narratives and all that sort of stuff. So on a technical level, it leaves something to be desired, but on like a artistic, creative level, it really steps it up. Speaking of the technical side, it does have a fair amount of performance issues, and I played it on just like vanilla PS4, and there was a lot of frame rate issues, a lot of screen tearing, which I completely forgot the word for in my review. And I was like, "What's the word?" The screen it slices.
It chops up.
It's not artifacting. What is it?
Yeah. This is pre-day one patch, though, right?
Yes, and that has gone live as of, I think, yesterday.
When was it launched?
On Tuesday. No, that's a lie.
Stop lying to us.
Today. Yeah, 27th. Today it's out.
It's out today.
And I published my review yesterday, and the embargo was the day before.
Gotcha. Right. All in order now.
All in order. Not like this world, which is very much in disorder. But it is cool because it's like a 1920s slightly noir tale, not overtly, but there's a little bit of it. And you're trying to solve the mystery of your insanity, basically, because he comes back from the war. He's seen some horrible things. I think he says that he was shipwrecked at one point, went to this island, and everything just went wrong in his life. Yeah. So he's come here to this place called Oakmont, and it's an island, but it's like just off the mainland. Like, it's not like a deserted little shitty island. It's a functional place, but it's completely isolated because it's been hit by this massive natural disaster that they just call the flood. And no one really knows what's happened or why it's happened, but it's just battered the city. And then there's just a bunch of weird fish people who are just knocking about, who are from some like other town, which is like named in the wider Cthulhu mythos thing. It's like popular tourist resort if you're a fan of Cthulhu, I suppose. They're weird fish people with like gills up their neck, and they're all gargly and horrible. Then there's weird ape people. I really like that guy. So the character called Robert Throgmorton, he's like this aristocrat, businessman, like wealthy guy, high class, high society bloke. And he's super like intimidating because he's this weird ape man hybrid. He's very broad and strong, and he looks really intimidating. But if you start to help him, he's kind of like weirdly generous. It's like
depth to the character.
Yeah, it's almost, you can imagine him being like, he's his enemy's worst nightmare, but if you're his friend, he'll reward you really well.
Yeah.
Like at one point, I completed an investigation, a quest, and I went back to him to like report, be like, okay, I did this, I discovered this, and he was like, okay, cool, I need you to go do this, follow up on this lead, and here's a shotgun because you're gonna probably need it. So I was like, okay, yeah. And the shooting does get better when you get the shotgun because it's just a bit more powerful than shitty pistols, but that's the same with most things. And when it comes to the actual investigation work, I think it's both good and bad, which is kind of weird. Because on one hand, I'm like, it doesn't tell you anything, really. It gives you clues, and then it's your job to figure it out, which is awesome. Because like one thing I really like is that it doesn't just drop stuff on the map. There's a few landmarks like the library or the university or the police station, which you can go to and do some investigating there. But if I need to find John Smith, he was last seen at this location, it doesn't drop that location in. You have to figure out where it is, pin it, go there, and then figure out what was in the rest of the clue. Like, does it mention going down an alley? Does it mention going into a house? And then you do what you got to do there, look around, and then put things together when you're there, which I really like. But sometimes it doesn't give you any information really, and you're just kind of left, all right, well, what do I do next? And I got stuck for a decent length of time, several times, just been like, I don't know like where I'm supposed to go next. And I don't think it's definitely part because I'm too stupid to figure it out. But I do think it could, if there was like a hint, like if you don't make any progress for like a certain amount of time, it can just bing up in the corner and be like, try this.
How about walking down this way for a bit?
Yeah, and I was like, thanks, big help.
Yeah.
And it doesn't explain itself very well in terms of like how things work. Like, it's got some RPG mechanics like leveling up and upgrades and that sort of stuff, but I just completely forgot they were there because it doesn't make a big deal when you do level up, and they call them knowledge points, and that just comes up in the same places, like when you get an XP notification when you kill an enemy, or when you loot like a chest and you get a bunch of stuff. It's just like in there, so I completely overlook it. And then I went in and I had like 3 knowledge points to put into like, you can reload your gun faster, or you can have extra sanity. The sanity is actually one thing I do really like, which is, so in the game you've got what I call your see-through walls button, which is, you have it in
Witcher Sense,
Witcher Sense in The Witcher, or Detective Vision in the Batman Arkham games. Even Days Gone had one. Like everything has it now, but most of the time they don't really make sense. Like The Witcher, they're just kind of just like, he's got like heightened senses.
He's a Witcher.
Well, yeah, he can just do it.
Days Gone doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Red Dead Redemption, you're a hunter.
They don't give you any justification. Batman is a bit like, okay, it's in his his mask.
And Aloy's got.
Yeah, it's got the things.
She got the tech.
Of course, but
she got the tech.
I like it here because it justifies it, but through his madness and insanity, because like he can see things that other people can't, and that's both like weird hallucinations and what like bad stuff has happened, and because you can like look into the past. Sometimes you'll pick up an object, like it'll be a pocket watch, and you interact with it, you spin around, and there's this little like blob, and you zoom in on it, and it gives you like a freeze frame of something that happened to do with that object in the past, and then that gives you a clue, and you build your evidence and shit. Or once you've examined a crime scene, you've got all the information, you can then step into the past sort of, and then put things together in the right order. So it's like, there's a broken window here, and then this table's been turned over, and then there's a dead body in the basement. Okay, which happened first? Someone killed the body in the basement. They then ran upstairs, knocked over the table, and broke out through the window. And then what's his face, Charles Reed will just be like, oh, so this is what happened, and talk you through the actual events, which I quite like. But then another thing, going back to the investigation being good and bad, is they've got this deductions system called the Mind Palace, which is pretty sure it's in the Sherlock Holmes games, but it's in definitely the Sherlock TV show, which is the concept of, it's like a mental construct which allows you to like visualize your memories and put them in places. So the idea is you build a house and you put memories in certain rooms, and you open the door and you can access that memory whenever you want, and it's meant to make you never forget things. So in this, that's how you make your deductions, and you get information and you put it together. So this guy's got racial prejudices against the ape people. This guy is an ape person and is dead. Put those together, maybe this person killed him.
Right?
Exactly. My problem with it is that it's not as deep as it thinks it is, and you can just click all of them until they match.
Yeah.
And that's kind of annoying. So I would have liked to have been able to get it wrong.
Yeah.
Like if he's the fish man and hates the ape man, this is an ape man, and because I'm missing a clue, if I make that deduction because maybe he's in love with an ape person, that would then, well, why would he kill him? Because he doesn't actually hate them. It's all part of a wider story. I think that could have added a bit more depth.
I mean, it's that balance of being too difficult versus I think you do need a failure condition, like we mentioned earlier, in order to make it more tense and exciting.
Yeah.
Right, because if you can just cheese it by clicking all the buttons, then what's the point doing anything but clicking all the buttons?
Exactly. Like I did it the first time by accident. I was like, just figure, how does this system work? Like when I move around, do things move? And I just clicked it and I was like, things happen. I hadn't even read these clues yet, and now I know the deduction.
Feels a bit cheaper, doesn't it?
Yeah. Like if you could just put it together where like you put them together and then it says you're almost there, but you're missing something.
Yeah.
And this isn't quite right.
Yeah.
But then when you have made all of your deductions for a case, you can then make conclusions. And that's when it gets quite good. And is where the depth is, because you can fall down on one side or the other. So like, I'll try not to spoil it because obviously there's different outcomes. But there's a bit where you've got to choose whether or not you want to save the people because, they're innocent. They haven't really done anything wrong. We should keep them alive because they're humans and we care about a nice lovey-dovey. Or leave them behind because if they come back, they're going to spread their problem onto everyone else, and it's just going to make things so much worse. And you've got to make that decision, and it doesn't tell you which one's right and doesn't make a big deal out of it either. The whole point is that it's meant to kind of wane on your kind of morality and sanity, just like it does for Reed's.
Yeah.
So if you choose to leave him behind like I did, he'll then go on and tell the person whose case it was, like, oh yeah, they're all dead, and you just lie, and it's kind of meant to make you feel a bit, maybe that wasn't right, but I don't think we should have brought them back.
Yeah, I'm a real big fan of that in games where there's no right and wrong answer. There's just morally grey areas, and you can make a decision based on what more aligns with you and your ethics. Yeah,
and like there was a guy who. I found out he did do the crime, but it was a matter of, okay, I get where you're coming from and your side of events, or you did a bad thing, you need to be punished, you need to be brought to justice. And then I picked to lie. I picked to I believe you, I trust what you say, that's fine. And then there was just a little thing, like I went back to my hotel room, which is like your base. And on the board there was a letter, and it was just like a thank you note from him. It's like, thanks, like my family can now be safe because if you killed me, then I wouldn't be able to feed them and they'd all die. And it was just little
nice.
little details like that.
It's a kind of same thing. I remember, I think it was Pillars of Eternity that I played, where there's one of the early missions was you've got a murder or something. There was a murderer and you're investigating it, and you find out that somebody was murdered because he was abusing the wife or something, and it's like, and then it becomes morally maybe there was a decent enough reason, because if you're getting abused and that, and then you decide still whether being a murderer is all that matters, like whether because you killed somebody you deserve justice, but
Yeah.
You know, in the grander scheme of things, whether because you were being abused as a spouse, whether that justifies what you've done, and then you know you're being left to make that decision as a gamer, as a player. I think that's great. The game isn't telling you what to think or what to do. You're making that decision, and that's part of what really appeals to me about these types of games.
Yeah, one problem I have with a lot of moral decisions in a lot of games is it's just pushing you to be one way or the other. It's like, be the bad.
There's a right and a wrong way.
Yeah, you be the bad guy, you get all the cool powers, but you be the good guy. You're the good guy. You're the hero. But it's like, well, no, I don't want to feel guilty about doing this. Yeah. But all of the characters are good and bad as well. Like there's a sort of secret society thing going on, and you're like, well, the police are telling me one thing about what you've been doing, but you're telling me another, and then other people are telling me something else, and I just don't know. And then there's this other guy who's involved because he was in a relationship with one of you. Mm-hmm. And going back to the Throgmorton Ape Man, it was a really good bit where I was explaining to him about a case, and I was talking about the fish people, and he was like, the bloody Innsmouthers, they're all the same, they're disgusting. And then my options were like, oh yeah, you're right, they suck. Oh, maybe then they're not all bad, or you're being a bigot. And I was like, I'll say that one. It's a bit risky because it might fuck up my relationship with him. He was like, well, maybe you're right. I was like, yeah, you prick.
Yeah, I'm racist. Right. You fuckers. Lucky you can't reach me through your screen. Yeah. Yes, I wouldn't have said that.
Great big ape man. He looks great as well because he's really well dressed. He's in a suit. I like making the comparison. He looks like Donkey Kong at his wedding because it's like a white suit, very smart, straight up tie, and the tie's red as well. Well, I really like the game in terms of its like story and the way the relationships and the characters work on like a personal character-based level. It's just a shame that some of the gameplay leaves something to be desired, and it just feels poorly optimized because there's a lot of like technical issues, and I'm quite forgiving of that sort of thing. But when I'm sprinting along and it's going framey, and then I just pause to open my map, and it takes like 5 seconds to catch up, it's a bit of a problem, and it's quite immersion breaking, which is a shame.
There you go.
I think I'm all done there.
We're all done, guys. We will be back in just a second with the Discord questions. Don't go anywhere. And there you have it. I told you we'd be quick. We are right back. And next up, we have Discord questions. Now, the Discord questions are served to us by the Patreon supporters over on our Discord channel, which you can get early access to if you are a Patreon supporter. So for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to the Patreon Discord, which is a chat client where you can chat with us, ask us questions for the podcast, and pick our brains about anything else, and join in with the community. You can access the Pretty Bad Dad Jokes channel, which is obviously infamous by now. Also, you get access to this very podcast 2 days early if you are a Patreon supporter. And not only that, right, those perks aside, you have the satisfaction of knowing that you are contributing to the continued productions here at Pretty Good Gaming. Without the patrons, without the support that they pledge to us every single month, we simply couldn't operate, we couldn't keep these lights on, and we couldn't be making videos. So thanks to everybody who does choose to support us, and if you are thinking about doing it, why not give us a try? And on that note, let's head over to our very first podcast question for this week, and this is, do you want to take it?
Yeah, I'll take this one, and thank you for providing the pronunciation of your name, because I always get it wrong, but my brain has still overthought this, and I still might get it wrong. So it's Moero Engetsu.
Moero.
But I don't know if you need to put the linking R in. So is it Moero Engetsu or Moero?
Moero.
Well,
Moero.
There's an R maybe.
We still got it wrong, even though you give us the pronouncement.
I'm just a trash. Right. So, with Crash Team Racing, great game by the way, a great game so far by the way, having come out on Friday, I thought I'd throw this question up. When it comes to remasters, would you prefer the game designer to stick to the original format and style of play, or would you prefer that they modernize things like control schemes, mechanics, and physics, but keep the general story and overall look the same? Okay, then there's another bit here. Just to help out Henry for any further questions I put, it's fine to just call me Mo. I'll do that. Mo. Mo Sislak from The Simpsons.
Yeah. No.
Okay, remasters. Should they keep their original
Control scheme,
controls?
style.
Yeah.
I strongly believe that if they are business savvy, they should update that shit. They should improve, because back in the day when you were making games 10, 20 years ago, when it was first released, control schemes were different, styles were different, gameplay was different.
Due to limitations of the time.
Limitations, just generally accepted best practices in the industry. I think the industry has progressed so far, and to release a modern game with all the old industry norms and accepted practices, I think it's a little bit what it does is it restricts your potential consumer base, because it restricts your appeal to the people who played it originally. More, all right, there's a little appeal for people who just want an authentic old type of game, but
you can just go and play that.
Yeah, you can just play that. You expand your appeal so much more if you've got a modern game, although it's a remaster of an original. You think of Resident Evil 2 remastered, right? All new, like the whole game was rebuilt from the ground up. You've got new areas, new ways to play, right? There's a lot of differences in it, and that's what I prefer. I prefer the Resident Evil 2 type of remaster, remake type of thing, to like an old game, just like tarted up with some extra visuals.
Yeah, I think generally I'm the same. Resident Evil 2 is the best example of it, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately. That might be my favourite game that I've played this year so far, just because of how much fun I had, and it gave me exactly what I wanted from it. It met my expectations and all that. But when it comes to stuff like Crash Team Racing, I don't personally have any experience with that, but I've heard people say that as a good thing, the physics is exactly the same as it was.
Yeah.
And for a competitive game like that, where you have that muscle memory from the past, you know, playing it on the PS1, that does need to carry over.
No, I guess with a racing game, it's slightly different. This is the caveat on what everything I've just said. In a racing game, like if I think a remaster of the original Mario Kart when I played on the Super Nintendo, right? If they changed the controls of that, I'd be like, "What the fuck is this?" Right? I mean, I get exactly what they mean by that. You want those controls if it's a racing game to be the same.
Yeah,
get that.
But then when it comes to Spyro, when they remastered that, they didn't have any of the original code, so they had to like write a program which would watch what you're doing on the PS1 version and then copy over its animations, essentially, because they didn't have any of the source code.
Wow.
But again, because that's mechanically, let's say, basic games like that, because there's not a lot other than jumping, dashing, and then gliding, and some fire. You don't need to up that, really. There's no need for it because the kind of game it is. So that's fine to keep the same. But one thing I would like in all these remasters is a way to switch back to the old graphics. Just like, I think the Halo remake, I can't remember when it came out a little while ago, but you literally, the press of a button, you could switch between old and new. Yeah. So you could see, wow,
that's great.
This looked shit.
I played the original Shenmue recently. Played it originally on the Dreamcast back in the day, but I got it on the Xbox Game Pass recently, and I fired it up on my PC, and they've just literally just ported that old version. It's not a remaster; it's not a remake. Is it? I don't know.
I don't think anyone knows anymore.
But that control scheme in that game was so awkward. You get used to it, but it's the old industry practices, right? It's a third-person game. To go first-person, you got to press a button, and then the whole mouse just moves like with your head. You are in first-person mode to look around, right? And then you got to press a very specific button for interacting with something, and so you pick something up and you do it like this, and it's really such a weird control scheme. It probably worked at the time, probably worked on a Dreamcast controller, but that's just an example of how they should probably update that control scheme. It'd probably be better for the new Shenmue. It's just coming out. Shenmue 3 is coming out, I don't know, whenever. They've delayed it again, haven't they? But that's just an example of, old game, but you could make it a lot better by making it easier to play for a start.
You shouldn't have to fight against the controls to be able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you do get used to it, but it's just a bit off-putting, really, when you're so used to accepted control schemes now that when you go to a really old control scheme, you're like, what the fuck is this?
I think in some cases, though, rather than a straight remake, I'd like a kind of a successor or a spiritual successor, because I think of Doom 2016. Classic Doom, it's a very different game in how you play it. You know, it's one of the pioneering first-person shooters. And then if you took that and just upscaled it and took the new Doom engine, it basically just would be new Doom, because new Doom is slightly different. Like, there's some different enemies, but then there's some familiar ones and different locations and shit. So I think that's enough new and enough old. I think that struck the really, really nice balance. So I'd like to see a lot more of those as well.
There we go. Thanks for the question. Anyway, Mo. Next up, Cloney has asked, I've noticed we're missing something. It is missed, so here is its return. We have the return of the Shag, Marry, Kill. Okay, so here we go. Spy-themed Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff from Marvel's Avengers.
Right, let's
is
get
the first option. Let's get these girls out here.
Pictures.
I'm glad that the girls this time. Lana Anthony Kane from Archer. Let's get this person up. And then we've got Lorraine Broughton from Atomic Blonde, Charlize Theron.
Now this is it's an interesting one.
So we've got Natasha Romanoff, Lana Anthony Kane, and Lorraine Broughton.
Right. I'm gonna say big Avengers fan, love the movies, and Scarlett Johansson is one of the most perfectly formed people in the world. So she's well up there. And specifically Iron Man 2 Black Widow, where with her first experience, she's got, because her hair changes in every movie. Everyone else gets new costumes and super suits. She just gets new hair, or it's like long and red and curly. That's peak Widow, in my opinion. Think I'm going to marry, because I know her. She's the character I'm the most familiar with. It's probably going to be Shag Charlize Theron in Atomic Blonde, because again, Charlize Theron is absolutely fabulous. But I've not seen Atomic Blonde, so I can't speak to her character.
We're being so reductive here and just grading these girls just on their appearance, because we don't know anything about their characters.
That's exactly what I mean, because I would rate her higher if I did know her character.
We're just awful. We're just awful human beings. We're males. How dare we have sexual attractions to these women? How dare we rate them?
Well, then you get Lana, who's a cartoon.
Mate. Yeah, I mean, she can die. She can kill.
Yeah, I think she'll die. Plus,
Scarlett Johansson is a must. For as much as Scarlett Johansson ever, you have to marry her.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
And then so you shag Charlize Theron. By default, that answers itself, that question.
I think with Lana as well, you'll have to deal with Archer the whole time, because he never leaves her alone. I can't be putting up with him. I love Archer as a show, but my God, he'd be annoying in the real world.
There you go. Fucking hell, this is hard. I'll work on some so they're really good. Yeah, I mean, try and not have one as easy, because the problem with Black Widow, and like you said, she's one of the most perfectly formed. Scarlett Johansson is one of the most perfectly formed human beings on the planet, and you know, you couldn't just make do with a shag on that. You'd just have to have her in your life, right? Anyway, and then you've got a cartoon character, which is another one. So it's a little bit, a little bit off balance. It might need some work, but we appreciate the effort, Cloney.
Yes.
We really appreciate you bringing it back.
Keep the themes. I like that they're themed.
There you go.
No, that's fun. Okay, what's next? Where are we? Okay. From Two Shot Tino. What was the first handheld mobile game you played? Mine was Donkey Kong by Nintendo, and I hardly ever put it down. I went through watch batteries like no tomorrow.
Oh God, this is a good question.
So not just mobile games like Angry Birds or Pokemon Go. You mean Game Boy games, Nintendo DS
back
games,
back in the day, you used to get these DS-looking console games, right?
Game and Watch,
and and then just like individual game device things, right? And I've just remembered it just now. I completely forget these things, right? But absolutely, yeah, it was one of the retro Donkey Kong. That was it.
Yeah.
I had the retro Donkey Kong. There was the LCD one, the one that flipped open as well. God almighty, that brings back memories. So many good memories.
Probably on the Game Boy. Well, no, it wasn't the original Game Boy. We had a Game Boy Pocket, which was the smaller version. And then eventually my brother got a Game Boy Color. But the one I played the most was probably Super Mario Land 2. I played a lot of Super Mario Land 1, but probably more Super Mario Land 2. And I specifically remember there's a boss underwater, and underwater levels are always hard in games because you've got to manage your air and stuff. And there's always something about it that creeps me out. Like, I like being in the sea, but I have a healthy respect that's fucking terrifying and there's full of nasty shit. It's probably why the Sinking City really works with me, because it's really creepy. But there's the boss, which is like a big octopus, and you can just swim up and just bounce on his head non-stop and let gravity do all the work and you beat him. Because it took me ages to kill him until I figured out that little hack, and it was great. Also played loads of Pokemon Red, but I never actually finished it because I kept... I played it for ages, and then my file would get corrupted, or I'd lose it, and I'd come back to it like months later, and I will have forgotten everything. So I was like, I'll just start again. Or I will have given my Charmander a stupid name like Dickhead, and I'd be like, well, no, I'm too cool for this now.
Tamagotchi, I think. I don't know whether Tamagotchi. You've heard of Tamagotchi?
Yeah, my brother's had one,
like
but I never.
Is that a game? It's just like a thingy,
keeping your little creature alive,
digital pet thing. But yeah, oh my god, I was about to answer it was going to be Game Boy, right? And then I just you just reminded me that these things existed, because I can't remember that Donkey Kong Game & Watch game. Oh my god, that probably was my very first handheld device. I'm just excited to have remembered it. I'm old now, you know. You're talking over 30 years ago.
If we're counting the Switch as a handheld, then I've been playing Zelda again. Still need to finish that. Made a bunch of progress the other day, which is good. I've played so much Smash Bros, which is so yeah.
There you go. So let's move on. Thanks for the question, Tutoshino. Is it me next?
Yeah, I believe so.
Gaboris. So guys, now that you've had your hands on GoG 2.0, Galaxy 2.0, I have a few questions, but I'll only ask one. You should have asked them more, because this was your opportunity. Oh, never mind. Ask them for next week, by all means. Since I just want to know everything else we'll raise. How does game launching work? So to clarify, since there are multiple exclusive launches listed within it, I guess my original skeptic idea of it being an extended GoG Connect is luckily out the window. Those are the biggest quotes of my life so far, mind you, a fancy library that only lists all my games but still needs my original launchers to be running to play them? Or did GoG somehow figure out how to spoof the other launchers through APIs or something? I'm not even asking about installing games, but they are connecting some way. Yeah, you initiate launching the game from the GoG launcher, but you don't have to have them running in the background. They will boot up in the background and run while you're playing your game. You don't even have to look at them. It just says, launching a Steam game at the bottom, and then the game boots up, provided that your Steam game is up to date, because that can be another barrier. But yeah, so it doesn't spoof anything. It they have to abide the DRM, and we covered it earlier. But
so you don't have to have Steam on before you turn on GoG Galaxy. You can have everything closed, just GoG open. Then you click your Steam game, then Steam opens, and then
in the background, and then the game comes. You don't see the Steam interface or anything. So hopefully that answers your question, and feel free to deliver the other questions next week if you've got any more.
Oh no, we've got another name that I struggle to pronounce, but I'm going to say Josuervo 47. I've recently noticed that some YouTube channels, not you guys, but some others that I follow, seem to have considerably more advertisement interruptions in the middle of their videos than other channels. Is this something that content creators have control of, or is it just my imagination fooling me? For example, can the owner of a channel opt in for extra advertisements so they can capitalize on AdSense, or is it completely out of their hands? Apologies for the boring question, but I'm genuinely curious as to how it all works. By the way, my name is a bastardized amalgamation of Jose Cuervo, the tequila.
Josuervo. I think we got it right. think we got it right, even without
swear. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. It's not boring at all. It's very interesting to us. But yeah, we can manually put as many adverts in the videos as we like. Now, I've been reluctant to do this mid-roll ads in the past because I was pissed off by them. I was pissed off by pre-roll ads in the beginning. I never used to enable pre-roll ads over my guitar videos and stuff. You make very little money off them whatsoever. That with the copyright things and that, because it annoyed me. So I thought I was going to annoy everyone else. I don't care about the money. I just won't put the ads on. Eventually, people get used to these types of things. You see these YouTubers now with like an advert every 2 fucking minutes on a 20-30 minute video, and you're like, what? My kid's watching it, and I'm like, you shouldn't be supporting this type of bullshit. This is absolute bullshit.
They know exactly what they're doing.
They know they're being watched by kids, and the kids will just sit there because kids are stupid, right? Kids are absolutely stupid. There's like 20 adverts in a 30-minute 20 mid-roll adverts in a 30-minute video, and they'll just sit there and they'll watch them one after another.
And half of them have sponsorships in there as well.
Oh man, that annoys the fuck out of me. We've resorted to putting one mid-roll ad in a video that's over 10 minutes now. So around about the 8-minute or 10-minute mark, or whatever's halfway, we'll stick a mid-roll ad.
It'd be like wedged between 2 nuggets or something.
And we decided that that's a good way of perhaps maybe doubling our revenue. It doesn't double revenue because people don't always get to the 50% mark. It probably adds about 30% to our revenue. But it's worth doing as long as it doesn't piss you guys off, and nobody's mentioned it. So we're happy with it. Yeah, we can exploit that as much as we want. But I've always been very wary of pissing people off and turning people off from your content by just appearing like to be a greedy motherfucker, which is what some of these YouTubers do.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's totally in our control, totally in our hands. And yes, people are fucking exploiting it to the max because they know kids are their audience, and they'll just sit through it because kids are stupid. Anyway, thanks for the question.
All of them.
And last question, Metal Shark. Mercifully give us only one question to choose from this week. Looks like you've got a good crop of questions this week, so we'll only give you one. You've both been selected to star in the remake of Never Say Never Again. What modern title, still electrified when losing, do you suggest to replace the infamous Domination? And which one gets to be Bond and which one is the villain? We had to look this up. I didn't remember Never Say Never Again. Thankfully, you provided the link. Now, for those of you who don't know, obviously James Bond movie, there's an 8-minute scene in this movie
so long
from 1983, right, where they're playing this game that the bad guys invented, where they've got dual joysticks, like the old style joysticks, and it's PvP, so they're facing each other like a battle.
It's sort of like battleships
setup.
You send in nukes
clear glass. There's clear glass in between them, and it shows up like a hologram type of thing in between them. Yeah, and you're battling against one another, trying to shoot the lights as they appear on the countries. It's such a cheesy.
It's so dated.
1983 was when the games industry crash was. I'm wondering how much of that was due to
Sean Connery sitting there, world class, internationally successful actor, just going.
It's brilliant.
It goes off for so long and there is no tension. Man. It's just so boring.
And at one stage, have you ever played those games where you're like, there's four of your friends and it's like a button, and when it gives you electric shock, the bell goes or whatever, and you've got to press your button as fast as possible, and if you're the last, you get a shock.
Yeah.
It's like one of them things, isn't it?
Yeah,
where you're he's just sitting there getting pretending this really hurting. It's up to 60% power, and then he falls off his chair. Oh man, it's funny. Anyway, that's what it is for those of you who aren't familiar with it. So what would we do if we were remaking the film? What game would we replace Domination?
I think I'd pick something that's like either really hard or has a lot of death, so then you're constantly getting zapped. Like set Bond up to fight a Dark Souls boss. It's like, all right, here's the buttons, you're gonna be fine, and then hammer, splat, zap, like backhand, zap. You're just constantly getting rinsed. Or maybe like a Call of Duty, like a war game.
It has to be like one-on-one and work well.
For that to be proper hero versus villain, like 1v1 Rust no scopes, Modern Warfare 2.
1v1 me, bro.
With zaps. First to 50 kills or something.
He's such a hustler, isn't he, Bond, in that scene? Such
well,
a
that's
hustler.
who he is altogether.
He's like, he loses the first 3 or whatever, and it's like, let's play for the world. And then he obviously, spoiler alert, he wipes the floor and gets 200. He wins $200,000 or something. He's about to write him a check, and he's such a like Bond is such a smooth operator. He's like, well, you can keep the money so long as I can have a dance with the bird.
He's such a
smooth operator, man. All that just to get a dance with the bird. Only Bond knows how. So yeah, thanks for the question. Who gets to be the Bond and who gets to be the villain? I mean,
well, you're like healthy and actually take care of your body, so I feel like you're probably better suited to being Bond.
Yeah,
because you can do
I don't mind being a villain.
The zip lining and
I don't mind being the villain one bit. It's fine.
Well, the villain,
you're the posher one, so you can be Bond, right?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Yeah, you're good at accents though, so you could be the villain.
Okay, I'll be the villain.
I'll be Bond. There we go. Thanks for the question, Mr. Metal Shark. Awesome question. And that is it for our questions this week. Let's move on to your favourite part of the week, which is reading the YouTube comments. Now,
featuring the triumphant return of the Triggered Toxic Fanboy comments.
Yes, Triggered Fanboy comment of the week.
That's it.
I've
jingle.
Yeah, I'm going to have to choose which one it is before we carry on. So have you got one to read? And then we'll come back to the Triggered Fanboy comment of the week.
Yeah, I've got one. And it's on my Sinking City review. And it's very simple. And it's something I thought as soon as I first saw gameplay, whenever that was, from MGK Pricey. The backpack looks weird, full stop. That's it, just the backpack looks weird.
That sounds
on the scene, because his like default outfit, it looks like a detective. He's got the hat and he's got like a jacket, and then he's got this enormous rucksack that looks like it's a kid on his first day of school, and your mum's bought you like this enormous bag. It's like, you'll grow into it, you'll be fine. This huge backpack with all of your books for the week, all your homework. I mean, I never did my homework, but that's just beside the point. And he just looks daft, and he's right, and there's no like weight to it, so it's just kind of like moving around as he's moving. It's not accounted for in the animation. But then if you equip an outfit, because there's alternate outfits, without that, he looks way more natural. And this comment just summed up. It's just, the backpack looks weird. Yeah. And there's nothing about it. It's just, the backpack looks weird.
Puts it all into the fewest amount of words possible.
Yeah, I feel like this guy came on, was like, oh,
that backpack looks weird,
and then left. That's it. It's like, no, it's a no from me. Your backpack looks weird.
All right, we have our this week's Triggered Fanboy comment of the week. And it comes in from Federus Socrates. That's a honest name. He is commenting on the podcast last week where we talked about Phil Spencer. Is he underrated? Is he the hero we all deserve? That type of thing. Right. This is his Triggered Fanboy comment of the week. Okay. PGG. Don't you understand Phil's trick? ? Really? ? He's only excusing the fact that Xbox is actively, in capitals, looking to go full third party, in capitals, and just looking for ways to paint it in the high moral ground. Please do look at this. With one part of his mouth, he is saying, this industry is huge. So even if we're not beating another competitor, it does not mean Xbox is losing. There is that much potential gamers. End quote. With the other side of his mouth, he attacks Sony for not letting him sell Xbox Pass and PlayStation ? What the fuck? If the industry potential is so huge, and you are forgetting that, quote, cancelling Scalebound is good for the gamers, end quote. This is where I have to stop it, right? Okay, I'm 2/3 of the way through. He's ranting, okay?
Yeah.
Phil's trick. Is this a trick? Have you got evidence other than
your anti-Phil bias? Like, you don't like him, that's fine. You can not like him, but does that make this a trick?
And cancelling Scalebound, and forgetting that cancelling Scalebound is good for the gamers. Like, nobody ever said cancelling Scalebound is good for the gamers. that you're implying there that cancel scalebound was actually bad for the gamers, which it's nothing for the gamers. It doesn't exist. It's a game that doesn't exist. That happens all the time in all parts of the industry. Well, only yesterday I heard of Mike Morhaime, who worked for Blizzard in the past, said that half the games that they made at Blizzard over the course of his time there didn't ever get released. 14 games were made, they didn't get released, but you didn't hear about them, so you weren't upset. So I mean, what difference is that? You can't hold it against. You can't hold it against Phil Spencer because a game went over budget and had development hell or whatever. That's just what happens in games.
Yeah, I think we all liked the look of Scalebound, big Xbox exclusive with fucking dragons and shit. Looked dope. They cancelled it. Bummer.
Okay, I just thought I'd pick up on that point. Let's carry on with this comment. Forgetting that pushing of, all caps, false, deceitful narratives. Foire the cloud. Foire of DX12. Fallout 4 in VR on Scorpio. Scorpio is launching with Lucky Tales. No any exclusives but Halo/Gears/Forza. Lousy games, one after another. State of Decay, Sea of Thieves, etc. Them getting recently rated as more children friendly than Nintendo ? And he leaves it on that.
Was that when he finishes it? That is such a cliffhanger.
This guy is so triggered. He goes to town on Phil Spencer. Okay, the whole point of me reading out what Phil Spencer said was because he's a leading industry figure, a huge industry figure, talking about positive change for the industry, regardless of his past, regardless of what you want to pin on him, regardless of the state of Microsoft as a company, regardless of all that bullshit that comes attached with what you think about Phil Spencer. The fact that he's doing that is good. Is good, full stop. It doesn't matter whether you believe his words or not. Like, fake words in his position mean the same as true words.
Yeah. I feel like this guy, because he trashed Microsoft and Phil Spencer, and then also little jab at Nintendo, like all Nintendo games are for kids, whatever. He's got to be a Sony cocksucker, really.
Yeah, the point where he says about one side of his mouth, he attacks Sony for not letting him sell Xbox Pass on PlayStation. It kind of feels like Xbox. He's defending PlayStation there for being attacked. So, the criteria for being the triggered fanboy of the week has to be you are defending something and attacking us. He's not entirely attacking us, but he
was calling us idiots for not
calling us idiots, and he's defending PlayStation. That's premise, because there were a couple more comments against that spoke out against Phil Spencer. This was the most heated.
Yeah.
So this has to be this is the most triggered. Whether he's the most fanboy of the week, I don't know, but this is the most triggered fanboy of this week. So thanks very much for your comment, even though we don't believe it. I don't think exactly the same as you, but you're more than welcome to your opinion, dude.
Yes. So I got one here from our NBA 2K horrendous in-game ads nonsense video that was this week, and it's a sentiment I've seen other people talk about before that I think is just total bollocks and is misunderstanding everything and just ill-informed. From Jim Farquhar: Patreon donations are the microtransactions of YouTube. Now that could be said. I don't think it is. Could be said. He could be trying to say, not all microtransactions are evil. That could be the subtext. Like, YouTubers use them as a way of making money. That's absolutely not what I think he's doing. I think he's trying to shame YouTubers for using Patreon, but he clearly doesn't understand how YouTube works. For starters, YouTube is free. Yep. So the closest approximation you can make is that it's a free-to-play game. YouTube is a free-to-play game,
which we've never had problems with microtransactions in, by the way.
So long as they're not like really predatory or loot boxes or something, And he said, my Patreon donations are the microtransactions of YouTube. But it's like, well, our ones, you get Discord for $1 and early podcasts.
Yeah. I mean, I always see people like this who take a principle and apply it to everything without considering nuance,
Absolutely.
right? So the missing nuance here is that our content is 100% free. We're producing this content for the viewers, just like free-to-play games, right? So that's the closest approximation, like you said.
Yeah.
It's like Warframe or something.
Yeah.
We've actually hailed that as one of the best revenue models out there. Warframe gives you a hell of a lot of an awesome game for free, and then if you want additional extras, bonuses, you can choose to support the developers in their maintaining and continuing development of the game by paying for microtransactions. At that point, I've played games in the past, free-to-play games, and thought, well, I've had a decent time out of this. I feel like if it was a full-price game, I'd have paid 20 quid for this. So, I'd maybe consider paying 20 quid out and getting some rewards as a gesture to the people who gave me that opportunity to have such a good time, that good time with the game. And it's exactly the same thing here. Nobody is expected to buy anything. You're not missing out on anything apart from the Discord.
Well, I mean,
but that's
only the Discord.
But that is, that is the bonus for people who do support us. But still,
yeah, you're not just going to pay for nothing. Like, I know Jim Sterling,
some sort of exclusivity, right?
Jim Sterling, he's got a Patreon, but he doesn't have any exclusive content because he doesn't believe in the idea of gated content or whatever, and that's fine. But it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
And then there's no incentive to do it to get something for yourself. It at that point it's purely selfless, and frankly, people aren't.
Yeah.
He still, I think he's got loads of patrons, but it's not like I'm doing this to get something out of it. I'm doing it specifically to support you.
Yeah.
So,
but you're perfectly entitled to think that microtransactions, they are the microtransactions of YouTube, but gotta pay the bills.
Don't
gotta put food on the table somehow.
Don't donate to Patreon then.
Just choose not to.
You just choose.
Just choose not to. That's perfectly up to you, and we respect your opinion for not doing it. But don't agree with you. But there you go. Anyway, next up, James Degrit says, talking about the EA video we did about what's his name, Andrew Wilson. Their CEO looks like he came out of a Kinder Egg. Weird plastic motherfucker.
That's funny. I hadn't seen that one. Although on a similar thing, and Anthem being ruined by blah blah. From Death 6 Avatar. There's a lot of A's there.
Avatar, yeah.
This dude looks hella like Robbie Rotten.
That's
PGG. We got you, fam. Because I tried to splice in. No, there's a lot of A's in that name. Just
Death Fire Avatar.
Oh, it could be via. Yeah, that might be right. I read it as like a Roman numeral. Okay. Anyway, yeah. It's because I tried to put in as many Robbie Rotten clips into that video as possible.
You said that. It's like, I'm just going to throw loads of Robbie Rotten in there.
Anytime it was an actual...
It was distracting for me.
Yeah.
Anytime we were talking about him being a bad guy... Robbie Rotten.
Anytime he was actually speaking, I was like, oh, right, well, no, we'll put on a proper one, but...
We got you, fam. Next up, Cryocorn on last week's podcast. Thanks for watching and listening and commenting, because it really helps out. You won't see us, we'll see you. Every YouTuber gets confused about that.
I picked that one out, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely true, but it's just something that we say, right? We'll see you next week. Well, no, we won't see you. We're looking at a camera. We'll see the camera again at this time next week, but you will see us next week. That's what we should say. Thank you for clarifying that for us.
For informing us. One here again on, I think it's the podcast, from Federal Pegasus. How dare you have an opinion on my opinion of the opinions in your videos? IR outrage. Subscribe for more future outrage.
That's the kind of viewer that we want.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you, Federal Pegasus.
Karan Dev comments on the NBA 2K19 video about bad monetization. Thanks for explaining the joke to us uneducated fools, Henry.
It'll help.
Destroying it in the process.
Yeah.
Do you have any more?
No, I've got one. I just need to quickly find who it was from. And it would... Where are you? Where's it gone? There it is. So, a trend which I hate on YouTube, because it's so pointless, and me getting mad about it takes more energy than it takes to actually do. And it's when people comment first. Especially when they're not first, for starters. And then half the time it goes on and on. It's like the second, third, fourth.
It's cool. Really, it gets the engagement up really early. It's the notification squad, man.
There's no reason for me to hate it.
Those are the purebloods. Those are the loyalists.
Those are the fundamentalists. Reason for me to not like it. But
you got to promote that shit, man. You've got to promote that shit.
But then there's one here, and it was the 4th comment on my Sinking City review. And bear in mind, the first 3 comments are all of the same guy, commenting like multiple times. From Mr.
CUNT.
Yes, there is a space in between, which is, I think, how we got away with having such a
Mr.
unpleasant name.
Mr.
See you next Tuesday. See you next Thursday for the podcast, right? And it says, first dislike. So I can legitimately hate that one because he's just disliking for the sake of disliking.
It's engagement.
Yeah, true. But
it's a dislike and a comment.
But you'd be like, why? Why waste the effort?
I want more likes, please.
Yeah, validate me.
He's not validated me.
Yeah. Well, then someone commented back, Felipe Carvalho. Why? Because that's what I thought. It just confused me so much.
Henry's fragile ego aside, let's move on to the next comment. Do people realise that this is on the podcast last week, right? Do people realise that when they call someone triggered, they are triggered themselves?
No, I've thought that before.
And it's an interesting premise, right? And I said to him, "Does that make you triggered?"
Yes,
because he said triggered, and he says everyone gets triggered. Being mildly irritated is being triggered. So yes, and that's the point on how stupid the saying is. So
I'm not sure he's calling us
confirmed triggered.
Is he calling us stupid or calling the concept of triggered? Well, triggered comes from like mental health stuff, right? That's why it's in popular language now, because you'll have a trauma in your past, you'll see something that reminds you of it, then it triggers that memory, and it's very unpleasant. Sure. The idea is that something
sets you off.
Something,
likes to touch paper.
Yeah, when we're saying it, it's because it's so illogical and over the top. Like as soon as someone hears the word Xbox, all the Sony fans go bananas and get triggered. But
okay, another couple of Phil Spencer ones there, but I want to just run out of time a little bit here, so I'm just going to read out the very last one. This is a puzzling one for me, right? On the microtransactions in the 2K19 NBA 2K19 game. DBNX1701 comments, "I'm sorry guys, but this is the first video produced by your channel that I had to give a thumbs down to." That's fine. I mean, saw that I'm surprised you haven't thumbs down one before now, but it's your choice. The reason for the thumbs down is because, I mean, quite literate, so it's fine. The reason for the thumbs down, because for 10 years, we've been telling casual gamers and sports gamers to join us in the fight against microtransactions, loot boxes, unusually high grind, and just the overall greed of the industry. And what was the response? There's no full stops yet, so yeah, I take that back. Was the response Q? We don't care. You guys are stupid. Okay. Firstly, how is that our fault, right? We have been fighting this fight for ages on this channel, ages and ages and ages, but now we produce this one video that you've seen, now you're thumbing us down because you don't know that we've been fighting this fight for over 2 years about microtransactions and loot boxes and all that bullshit. Welcome to the channel, dude, by the way.
If you've been watching our content, you'll know we're not sports fans. So if you only play sports games and you get triggered because of this...
I don't think he is a specific sports fan.
No, but if he's saying... sports fans are only just getting annoyed and they've been turning a blind eye to everyone else's games, then that's bullshit. But we've not been doing that.
I mean, I don't know why he's disliking our video, taking out his frustrations on us. I mean, that's a prime candidate for Triggered Fanboy of the Week, but he's not showing any fanboyism. He's not affiliated with any game.
He sure is triggered, though.
So he's triggered. Anyway, he carries on. Well, now it's your turn to tell you, the angry sports gamer, fuck you, we don't give a shit. Oh, you should have joined us in this fight a long time ago. We did. So I don't know whose channel you've been at until now, but welcome to Pre-GG. We are a pro-consumer gaming channel, and we always cover the most anti-consumer things in the industry, such as loot boxes, microtransactions, all of the bullshit associated with bad consumer practices. And then we've been doing that for far longer than you've had the inclination to be pressing that like or dislike button, whichever you may choose. That is up to you. And I did reply to him. I said, We joined the cause now and you're angry. I was a bit confused about what he was talking about, but now you're angry. You think maybe that kind of attitude is why nobody gave a fuck about you. Yeah! No, it's probably the wrong thing to do. But I know.
It's funny.
I respect your opinion, but you're wrong, dude. You've got the facts wrong on that one. But there you go. There you go. That's me expended.
Right, I've got one final one because it was something I didn't notice when you said it, but I noticed it in editing, and I was just like, "What?" Either I've been saying it wrong for years, or you've been saying it wrong, and now I've got my answer. This is on the. Is this the worst monetization video about NBA 2K from Errol Bachter at 405 Allegory. And it's because you said, talking about the frog in a boiling hot pan, it'll die, but if you put it in a cool pan and then gradually heat it up, it won't just die. It'll become accustomed to it. And you pronounced it allegory or allegory or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's an allegory.
Yeah, I always fuck up pronunciations. Yeah. This is part of the channel, man. It should be dad jokes, bad pronunciations.
Like, I didn't notice it. And then, going back and editing, I was like,
we should...
Allegory?
I should redo the...
Allegro? I know you're a musician, but go on.
I'm redoing the banner. I'm going to resign the banner. I'm going to put
let me just
dad jokes and bad pronunciations.
How you pronounce it. Let's read the...
Allegory.
So that's allegory. Yeah. Allegory. Hold on, that does say
it allegory. Doesn't fucking matter. You know what I meant, you muppets. God almighty.
Sick burn. And I think that is all.
On that note, thank you for listening to the podcast. If you want to support our content, we've mentioned it before, head over to patreon.com/prettygoodgaming. From as little as $1 a month, you can get early access to this very podcast or next week's podcast and all future podcasts 2 days early. Also, you can get access to the Discord channel where you can converse with us, because we're there, we talk, you can ask us questions for the podcast, you can get access to the Bad Dad Jokes channel, and we really appreciate it because it keeps the lights on. Thank you very much for that. And on behalf of Mr. Henry Cooper and myself, Mr. Gareth Evans, we will see you again in next week's podcast, or we won't see you again at all, in fact.
Yeah, that's true.
You will see us. Thanks for that. I just remembered. You will see us in our next bit of content, which will probably be Monday now if you're watching this on Sunday, or if you podcast again next week. It's all very confusing. Whatever. We'll see you again later. Bye for now.